that entails. So right now we want to move along with the discussions, and right now we're going to matters to do with lifestyle. And in today's segment, we will be focusing on why you should just go ahead and dream big. And you know, you never know when that opportunity will actually come for you to be able to live that dream. But remember, you can always talk to us using the hashtag Good Morning Kenya on Twitter, at KBC Television and at KBC Channel 1 are our official station handles across all social media platforms. And of course, our individual handles at Jain Wambui, at Ramaguko and at Ray Manyara. And just before we even get to the interview, Ram had mentioned that, you know, KBC has partnered with the Panari Group of Hotels to just make your Easter all the more better. What do you have to do? Just share with us your Easter experiences. How have they been so far? Have they been worth celebrating or not even worth talking about? Well, share your story with us using the hashtag Easter with Panari. If you don't use that hashtag, you will not be in the pool of people who actually stand a chance to win this fully paid weekend getaway to the Panari Resort in Nyahururu, or one of the four who will actually get to have dinner at whatever Panari for dinner vouchers courtesy of Panari. So share with us your story using the hashtag Easter with Panari, and come Easter Monday, you might be the one walking away with either of the vouchers or the weekend getaway. So get to talking to us. But in the meantime, let's just get started with the interview right here in studio. And with me today, we have one Kimathi Kaumbutho. He is, let me start as my Bairo falls, an author, a spoken word artist and a gentleman. Thank you. He is an author, he is a spoken word artist, he is a poet and the director of Green Sports Academy, which is under Green Sports Africa. Karibu sana.
Thank you. Thank
Good
you so
to have
much
you.
for having me, Jane.
Dude,
I appreciate it.
You are 25 and you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 titles.
Yeah, I think even when you're introducing, I was like, who is that?
Like,
because it's never...
Karibu sana.
Yeah, thank you so much.
We're glad to have you.
Thank you.
Are you on social media?
Yes, I am.
Give us your social handles.
Kimathi Kaumbutho.
Kimathi Kaumbutho.
Yeah, that's on everything, I think. Yes, yes.
All right, so you have written this fantastic book, if you can just see it. It's called To Chase a Dream in Nairobi. That is very specific. Not just chasing a dream, but where? In Nairobi. We're just going to get to talk about it. I mean, I understand it's just literally a memoir of your story, how your life changed from that boy who was dreaming big to actually living that dream. But let's start with when all that happened. You know, you were just another regular kid going about your life, dreaming big. Let's go back to those heydays when you were young and just dreaming about football.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I grew up, I think since the age of 7.
Yeah.
Football was always very prevalent in my life. My dad used to take us to play and used to coach us as much as he knew how.
Ile kienyeji ya mtaani.
So I used to play, I think, every Sunday, and you know, I used to play as often as I could. And I grew up with the dream of wanting to play professionally, and specifically wanting to play for Arsenal. Yeah. Because I had, I had watched them. You know, that time there was Patrick Vieira, Thierry Henry, Robert Pires, Dennis Bergkamp, and I used to watch on Saturday and think, that is the only place I want to be in my life. You know?
Did not have any other doctor dreams, any engineering dreams?
Since I was 7, it was like that was the one thing. Yeah. And now I'm going to put all my energy towards it. And so I played for many different academies, trying to play everywhere I could. You know, Ligindogo, Maisa, all of these clubs that I used to play for. But it reached a point where I was struggling to see, or we as a family, even my parents were struggling to see where the opportunity would come from in terms of me going somewhere further with the football.
You were that persistent kid, like dad, football. Mom, any that was you?
Every morning with my mom, I think that was me.
Yeah.
You know, I was asking them if they had relatives who stay I don't know where, if I can just move.
Accidentally.
And you know, it's crazy because as a kid, it's like I was willing to just leave them, you know, and just say I'm going, because I believed in it that strongly, and it was naive, it was crazy, but I guess, yeah, so I went to playing, and at the age of 15 now, it started to get real. Start asking those questions like, okay, where's the next step? Where are you going to play? And all of those things.
All right. Now, for you now, you're at the age of 15. There's a school, there's, home, there's family, there's responsibility. Okay, for a child, there's barely, much responsibility, but you have that position in your family where you are. But now, even your folks are like, okay, sasa, who you? Tutamsaidiaje? It got to that point when you were about 15 years.
Yes, yeah.
What happened then?
So yeah, it just became real, and asking questions as to where is this football going to take you, where's the next place to play. And my dad did some, I think he had a few friends, did some research, and we found an academy in Florida in the United States.
Yeah.
And so the plan was to go there for 2 weeks, kind of on a trial basis, see how it went, and then from there hopefully see maybe if they could, sign me on to play continuously from that, or it wouldn't be professionally because I was still young, but to join the academy, and it was a residential academy, so I would stay there and all of those things. So when we prepared, now I was getting ready, with that aspiration of I'm going and I'm not coming back.
We're gonna do it. A one-way ticket, one-way trip.
And so we went, and it was an amazing experience. I think those 2 weeks I played like I had. I remember even the first training session, I was so nervous.
Like
I can't even describe it, which is why it's in the book. Yeah.
Now, even before we get to you being there, how were your parents, in just reinforcing this dream for you, that you have? Were they like, hey, Baba, you can play football, but not, just take it lightly? Was it that kind of a situation, or your parents actually believe like, you want to play football? I'll make sure you play football.
I think initially it was like, okay, this kid has this hobby, or he has this interest in football. And then as time went by, it was like, okay, this is more than just an interest, it's more of an obsession.
Yeah.
And then there were, those people, friends and family, who are like, oh, you play football, okay. But also make sure you focus on your books, because even now football is not really seen as an outlet. So I think people were now, they were shying away from telling me that maybe football isn't something tangible. You
shouldn't take it seriously as such.
Yeah, but at the same time, my parents, I think, realized that, okay, if this kid doesn't get something in the way of an opportunity, what could happen to him?
He might spiral down the wrong way.
Yeah, or I don't even know, because I had never considered
anything.
I had never considered not going down that path. So, so I think that's now when they became supportive. And trying to do what they can.
All right. Yeah. So now here you are. Your father has, just looked around, found this opportunity that you can go for 2 weeks. Jaribu tuone venye itaenda, ndio usiseme tu kuwahi jaribu, So you go there. Then there was a training session. How was that for you?
It was like, it's in the book, but I think at that time flights were delayed and everything. So the first training session, I think it was me and my brother actually. My brother had gone with me.
Yeah.
And we had slept, I think, 3 hours before that training session. And I think we even got lost on our way to the training pitch. I couldn't even eat. That's how nervous I was. I didn't eat. And then Florida at that time is extremely hot.
Yeah.
And when I'm saying hot, I'm talking hot like I've never seen Kenya get that hot.
Extreme temperatures that we're experiencing right now is nothing.
It's nothing. It's nothing. It's very humid, like Mombasa almost. And so I went for the training session, and there were these kids who were there, and they were, for them it's like an everyday opportunity. That thing is there for them.
Yeah.
But for me, it was like you have traveled thousands of miles from where you come from
to prove yourself.
So it was, I was doing everything at 120%.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to get that opportunity. Yeah.
So you did your session. What was the result after that? Tulirudi nyumbani after wiki mbili?
So after 2 weeks, the discussions with some of the coaches, they were quite impressed, and they're speaking with my parents, and they're saying he should come and join us full time. Of course, at that time, it was an enormous financial commitment on my parents. They were considering, can this thing really happen? At the same time, I'm a 15-year-old kid, and they are coming home. I maybe not. And now you leave your kid, so far away from you.
Yeah.
And so there were many things that they considered, but I think I was just so
You already
obsessive.
decided you're just there waiting.
I was like, you know, for me, this is everything. So if you don't give me this, yeah. So that's what eventually happened, and decided to sign on full time at the academy. And I stayed there now residentially. I was going to school in the mornings, playing in the afternoons. 6 times a week, and that was my first time truly experiencing development at the highest level.
All right, so now here you're still a kid, presented with this opportunity that you have always seen as a dream, but now you're actually living it. Now, those 3 years were guaranteed. What were some of the changes that you saw that you were like, oh my God, this actually exists? I had never even thought of such back home.
I think it was all the off-the-field stuff. Because there is, of course, how you play on the field, but there are things that I had never even, you know, things like your nutrition, things like your mental conditioning, your psychology when you play. All of these things I was learning for the first time, you know, even the gym and weights. And, you know, when I went, I was a small kid. I think I don't even remember how, but I think I grew. I remember coming home for the first time after the first year, and my parents were, you know, like, they couldn't believe. I think I grew an inch that year, I think. Because I told myself, okay, I need to go bigger. That was what they told me. I need to go bigger. And so I started eating a lot of food. And I don't know if it was the hormones or whatever they were serving me, but yeah, now I developed into, I started to notice I was developing into an athlete. So I became bigger, faster, stronger, and my mind developed. And those are some of the realizations I was having that, you know, when you see football, when you only see it on the weekends on TV, you don't see what happens behind the scenes.
Yeah, you just see the cream.
Yeah, I didn't realize how expansive it was, and that just broadened my perspective. Yeah.
And also when you were there, you know, just being exposed to all this new different culture shock in itself was one thing, all these new ways and practices that actually athletes go through. What are some of the challenges that you personally had to go through to just be able to even be in that space?
I think for me, I was terrified. I didn't realize it until after the fact, but I was dealing with a lot of anxiety because there were these people I had never seen before, talking like people I had never
heard before.
And you know, one thing also that didn't really help is maybe people don't talk about it. When you see white people as the only voice of authority in your life, which is what I had experienced growing up. I had never seen, you know, a person of that color, you know, approach me in. It was always the voice of authority, telling me what to do, and even in the schools I went to. So when I experienced it, where everybody is, you know, of a different race to me, I think I started to deal with a lot of anxiety. I didn't know how to handle situations. Socially, I was very quiet. I was very shy. I also didn't have much pride in my own identity because, you know, when you're 15, you don't know yourself. And I think I was trying to look for my own roots and trying to understand, okay, I'm a Kenyan, but this is the way they see me. How do I see myself? Asking all these different questions that I had never really answered before. You know, I didn't know what being Kenyan or being an African meant. And all the stereotypes that are attached to it from people of that, you know, in the Western world, and having to deal with all of these things and all the forms that they come in, you know, whether it's ridicule from your teammates or people making fun of you, and you don't understand, and it's just a whirlwind of things. And that's even before you get onto the pitch.
Wow.
And to have that strength mentally.
That mental strength,
I think that I had to develop because in the beginning, I think I really struggled.
And you were by yourself at that time?
Yeah.
No other familiar faces, oh, this one is from home, this is my distant cousin, Wanani Nanani.
No.
It was just you and in this new environment.
And yeah, I mean, there were other international players there, and that kind of helped. There were players from all over. I mean, South America. There was a good friend of mine who was from Guadeloupe, which is a French colony. There was other Africans, but very few. And so we would now try to understand the world that we were now living in.
Mnajuana kwa vilemba. Oria, kuja, come.
Yeah, tukule pamoja, kila kitu.
So it's just strengthen the numbers. Now, in your book, which we'll be getting to, just try to go through it a bit, there's this statement that you say, if you have a dream bigger than your circumstance. What did that even mean for you when you were coining that phrase?
I think it meant you don't realize, okay, you have this dream that is, you don't know the path. In essence, you don't, because with other things, maybe let's say if I wanted to be a doctor,
yeah,
you know, there is a standard procedure. You know, you finish school and you go into med school and, you know, you do residency. That's a kind of a path that you have even seen people next to you take and become. But now with my dream, or with some of these other dreams that people have, there is nobody next to you who can say, okay, that person went. And then when you learn how they went, it's not something that's easily replicable. You know, you realize maybe they got lucky or different things happen. So I think that's what it means to have a dream that's bigger than your circumstances. You don't know the steps that are supposed to lead to that end.
And at what point did you come to that realization? Was it when you were just this 15-year-old kid still here, or when you have actually gotten this opportunity and been there for a while, you're like actually stepping back and realizing, wow, you know, having a dream bigger than your circumstances actually can be a reality?
Yeah. I think I came to the realization of how hard it would be when I was around 14, 15.
Yeah.
And I was still here and trying to play anywhere and everywhere, and nothing in the way of something that I could say is a real opportunity came. I even remember one time we were playing with my son. We were preparing to go to Norway, the Norway Cup.
Yeah.
And I had gone for a trial, and you know, it was several different trials over an extended period of time. So I went to the first one, and I was selected to go through the first one, and went to the second level. But after that, I started to notice some irregularities. One of them that's big or prevalent here in Kenya and in Africa is age verification. So I was playing under 14, and the people next to me,
they were not under 14?
They had finished secondary school.
Wow.
And so now it kind of awoken me to some of the realities of where I was going up and some of the opportunities. Yeah.
Some of these problems actually cut across, not just back home.
Yeah.
All right, so now you came home after the first year. When did the idea for this book even come to mind? When was it birthed, the very first time?
I think for me, it was always like, I kept on replaying, if I actually made it somewhere, what would I do? That was always something I would ask myself. I would even, you know, think in terms of my own kids or my own legacy, or the people who I knew that looked up to me or would send me messages when I was there, telling me, hey, you're such an inspiration, or stuff like this. I would always wonder, okay, what can I, you know, do for them? And I just used to think of, you know, how I would talk to them or try to inspire them somehow. This book, I think, only came now much later, you know, once I was further down the line. That was when the idea came, because I couldn't help every single person, so I wanted to put it somewhere, and even just make sense of my own journey. To write it down and to put it in some format that I can look back on and say, you know, this was actually something that happened, and to understand it fully.
All right. Now, before we even actually get deeper into the book, just going back to those first 3 years you were there. So the first year you were experiencing all these changes, and at once, all these new environment, new ways of living, new cultural experiences. Then you come back home, and then you have to go back again. What did you feel you really needed to just come and let them know back here at home in regards to, you know, living the dream as opposed to what is already here? I think within that first year first.
I think work, how much work I had to put in.
Yeah.
Because it became like an obsession. Because I mean, we deal with young kids now at our academy, and I deal with parents who are saying, okay, so and so won't be able to attend training today because of blah blah blah, and the obsession is so prevalent in my mind that when I hear a parent say that, I want to shake them and say, look, your kid has a dream, you know, and there are kids competing at his level around the world who are training right now, and he's missing that session. Yeah. And I want to shake them and say, look, he only has, you know, however number of years to actualize this thing. Yeah. So you need to prioritize it in his life. It's fine, you know, school is also important. All of these things are important. But there is also an aspect of obsession that needs to come into it, and the support system needs to be quite high, because the level of work that must be put in for a player to play at that level is a lot. And that's kind of one of the things that I wanted people to realize.
To change that mentality.
That mentality of, because the opportunities are there for them now, especially the kids who are in our academy.
Yeah.
Those opportunities do now exist. But I know what it takes for them to play at that level. The parents may not, and they may not see it as, okay, it's just football,
not as important.
You can play once or twice a week. Yeah, and I want to kind of wake them up.
We really need to change that mentality that, yes, even as much as you love to play football, it shouldn't be the center of your everything. We need to change that mentality. Let a child do what they really want to do. Ultimately, they will figure out their way in life. And especially with this new curriculum, is actually advising more of that, not just about books, but be competency based. Letting the children be hands-on, see what they can do beyond just reading. Because for some kids, reading is just not for them. Books are not just for them. Their hands, their feet, they're more hands-on people. And when you kill that dream, you end up making them live a life that they're going to be miserable. And ultimately, your child pays for your sins, which is so sad.
It is, yeah. I would say, though, school is definitely
It is important, but, core curricula should not also be looked down upon as, it should be just a core.
Yeah.
It should, kids these days are becoming so more hands-on, more practical, wanting to live their dreams more, as opposed to back in the day. For our folks especially, what you're called to do in campus is what you will do, whether you are qualified for it, whether you want to do it or not. But times are changing where, we're embracing more of these, sporty kind of careers for our children. All right, so the first 3 years lapsed. What came after that?
So after that, I attained a scholarship to play in university. I went to a Division I university in Oklahoma. I played there for 1 year. I ended up moving again to Mississippi and then moved one more time to Ohio.
All this time you were on scholarships based on your playing soccer?
Football,
okay.
And then in my final year is when we won the national championship, which is basically one of the best universities in the United States with regards to football, or soccer as they call it. And there, I think now certain doors started to open, not just for me, but everybody on that team. And all that time, those 4 years, I was also playing semi-professionally in the under-23 league. They call it PDR now, they call it USL2. So I was playing, that whole time. In my final year now, playing in that league, I was actually voted as one of the best center-backs. They had a best 11 team that they would select at that level. In that region of the United States. And now at that point, I thought, my life is going to change. There's going to be clubs everywhere, looking for me, and everything will change. And as it's written in the book, that didn't really happen for me.
What happened?
And I would wonder why, these things aren't happening for me. They're happening for maybe teammates of mine, and I would do everything right, but the same thing that kept coming back to me is scouts or coaches asking me if I had a U.S. passport or a green card. And that point, that's when I realized that coming from where I come from, the mountain is so much bigger. Because, even something as simple as your nationality can stop you from attaining certain opportunities. And these restrictions are not just, in the U.S., they're actually in many leagues, something that you're not taught as a kid. Somewhere like the UK is actually nearly impossible to play for a Kenyan at the moment. To move from, to play in Kenya to move directly to Arsenal is actually nearly impossible at the moment because of these rules that they have. And so for the first time, I was being subjected to all of those things, and made me now ask some tough questions. I still wanted to continue playing, and so for several months I went without a club. Training everywhere I could. Working out, doing whatever I could. I went for many different trials, and there were 2 trials that I dedicated myself to. This is the end of 2016. And I told myself, these are the last 2 trials that I'm attending. Whether I make this dream a reality or not,
this is the final round.
This is it, because then I would have known that I really put everything, and there was nothing more that I could do. And so I went for the first one. It went okay. They ended up selecting the player who played next to me. The second one now was the one where I think I played with no pressure. And I really tried to, I told myself, you know, if this is going to be my last time playing this game,
might as well enjoy it.
Just enjoy it.
Yeah.
And it's like I was in a different place mentally that I'd never been in before. And on the final day, that's when I was called over by a coach who is in Finland at the moment. And he told me, you know, we want you to join our team for preseason. And at that point, it was almost like a movie.
I've actually been selected.
It was like, I don't even know how to describe it.
Yeah.
But it was like the culmination of all the years that I had, you know, put into this dream coming to fruition.
Yeah.
In that moment. Yeah.
So here you are, about your dream about to become, you know, this actual reality that had for some time not seemed so clear up until now.
Yeah.
Did that actually go through and through to a point where you're like, yeah, here we are?
Yeah, it did. It did. But you see, at the same time, in my mind, I was thinking, I deserve this.
Yeah.
Because I've put in so many hours of work, you know. I had reached a point where I was like, if I don't get selected, then, you know,
I'm done.
Yeah, because
switching to different paths in life.
Yeah, because I had really worked and sacrificed a lot of things to get to that place. Yeah. And
what did you study at the university?
I did business administration.
Have you ever practiced?
I mean,
that was now the fallback plan in the event that, you know, this final try doesn't go through.
In my mind, I think
of going into business?
In my mind, I think it was like, what can I do to facilitate this football thing? And what's the basic course that, because there was no plan B.
Yeah.
It was just, okay, follow this football thing and then, you know, figure stuff out later if, you know, it doesn't work out. But I had never pictured it not working out. So I had never thought of what else I would do.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Even now, I'm not sure.
I decided you're still on the same path.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly.
All right. So where did even Green Sports Africa, you know, now that you are director of the Green Sports Academy, where did you even encounter Green Sports Africa?
So I came back now to prepare for that opportunity to travel to Finland. And a few weeks before I went, now the person who was acting as my agent told me that the club could not take another international player. And at that point, at that point I was
that is a slap on the face, man.
Yeah. At that point I was a little bit disheartened because I thought it would really come to fruition. And so
you were that close.
Yeah.
That close.
Yeah, and I know there were opportunities, you know, he had told me there were other opportunities that would probably come from it. In maybe going somewhere else, but I started to ask myself some tough questions at that point. You know, why do I play? Why do I enjoy this game? Why am I sacrificing everything? And I think that's when I started to realize that football for me was always something I was told I couldn't do. It was something that I was told, you know, this football thing, wendo sometu, wendo, you know, things like that. So I really wanted to prove a lot of people wrong, and that was a lot of what was driving me. And I had reached a point where I had proven to myself that it was possible.
Yeah, despite what all you had been told.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that was a moment of self-realization. And at that point I said, okay, do I continue down this path? And though I have found what I'm looking for, or do I decide to do something different? And I think at that point I told myself that I found what I was searching for. And I think it is the same for many athletes.
You get to that point.
You get to that point, because not everybody can be Lionel Messi or Cristiano Ronaldo, but there is a point where there is something you are searching for. I think that's not even just as athletes, in anything in life. There are certain experiences you go through because you're searching for something. And once you find that thing, now you question how relevant that thing is to your life anymore.
And you know, for some people, when something happens in your life and you don't understand it, you don't just take that step back to actually realize that, yo, I have actually done what I wanted to do. All right, we will be back to continue with now the book in itself, get to know a bit more about the book and what it means for him as a person. But we want to take a quick commercial break. Do not go anywhere. We'll be right back after this break.